Greetings, everyone. Hey, how you doing? It's Matt Sella. Today, we are doing a spoiler talk movie review. Yeah, it's been quite a while since we did something like that with the brand new Sony Pictures Animated movie, The Mitchells vs. the Machines. That's right, it came out in the US on Netflix. How convenient. And so, we want to talk about it because we saw the trailers and it looks so gosh darn interesting and unique compared to other 3D anime movies we commonly see. But before we get into that, I gotta introduce my usual co-host here. You know him, you love him, maybe not, I don't know. He likes DuckTales, he likes animated shows, and we recently wrapped up on Invincible, or did we? I don't know. Anywho, it's my good friend, Marc, aka Marcello, aka Marc the Terrible, via Satellite Radio. How you doing out there, Marc?
You have failed to address my various other titles, but I will let that slide because we have a much more respectable person joining us who, needs an introduction. We'll get on with it.
It's our other good friend, Mirella, who has done a whole bunch of other reviews with us on this channel before, and she was kind enough to lend some time to talk about this interesting anime movie. That's right, folks. It's Mirella, the ever stupendous, the ever intrigued. How you doing out there, Mirella? Via Satellite Radio as well.
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm here coming to you from this little box that's shining light at me, and it's speaking to me, and it's coming in your voice. It's kind of odd and comforting. I don't know how I feel about it.
Well, hopefully you feel up for talking about some animation stuff, because we got ourselves quite an interesting movie we all checked out.
Yes, I'm excited.
And I hope you're excited too, Mr. Lord Marc Marcello.
I couldn't be more excited. This is a road trip movie that's a trip, and its production is a trip. I'm flabbergasted.
Well, I say let's get started. But before we do, quick reminder, folks, if you like reviews like this, TV shows, we talk about a whole bunch of animation in movies and all things like that. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel. It really helps. And if you want to check out some animation streams that I like to do every Saturday, roughly around 1 or 2 p.m. Pacific time, then check me out there. I'll have links in the description below. Well then, let's talk about this movie. And as a quick reminder, I did say this was a spoiler talk movie review, so you have been warned. Spoilers ahead. Are you all ready? Then here we go. So what is this movie generally all about? Well, it's about Katie Mitchell, who is a quirky, aspiring filmmaker in Michigan, who often clashes with her nature-obsessed and technophobe father, Rick. While she was accepted into a college on the West Coast, evening before Katie leaves, Rick accidentally breaks her laptop, disappointed that they're starting to drift apart in their relationship. So, Rick decides to cancel her flight and instead take her on a road trip with the rest of the family. And so hilarity ensues when all of a sudden, a rogue AI starts to go nuts and robots come out of Silicon Valley and start capturing humans all over the world. And now it's up to Mitchells to find out what's going on and how to stop this robo-apocalypse. And that's generally the synopsis of the movie. And I just realized that was a waste of time because this is a spoiler talk, and I assume most people have already seen this movie. Whatever.
If not, you should.
Yes, you really should. Stop watching this now, watch a movie, and come back.
Yeah, please come back.
Yes. See everything.
Yes, and come back and hear our thoughts. Animators, enthusiasts, what have you. Anywho, let's kick it off to Mirella. I want to hand it over to you. What were some of your major takeaways from this movie after watching it? I say 2 times you did?
Yes, I did. I watched it with you and Marc, and then I separately snuck away for the next day and watched it with my mom. So
how wholesome.
Yeah, very, very wholesome. A huge takeaway is that this was a very animatory movie. Like, it couldn't be more animatory, where not only is the style and the visual look so produced by so much love by animators, but also the story holds up, and that was really impressive. Like, I loved how the story weaved and, still was relatable to people. And I don't know, something that I noticed upon watching it the second time with my mom is that she really connected to the family drama, so to speak, and the struggles that the father and the daughter went through. And I looked over a few times at her, and she was actually crying at certain points. And she was just like, how did they know It's like this. Did they wiretap her house? She said it jokingly. But it was an interesting observation on her note. And yeah, that was a huge takeaway for me. So yeah, I really connected with it.
That is beautiful.
No, it really is.
Anything we say is just garbage now, Matt.
Oh no.
We should hand the show over to her. She could run the Matt Sella podcast.
Yeah, and then I will take the podcast and give it to our dark overlords, aka the Furbies.
Oh no.
Who have formally announced their plans for world domination with this picture. I, for one, am so happy for them after
Yes.
all these years.
Yes.
And I, for one, welcome our new overlords. But no, seriously, no, I totally get where you're coming from completely, Mirella. I haven't been able to watch this movie with my family yet, but I watched this a second time in the morning after we watched it together last night, and I was really surprised at how deep the themes were about the whole family drama going on, certain boundaries that they set up with each other regarding these devices, or like not understanding how to handle someone who wants to go into the creative field but worried about failure and all that. It's like there's a lot of undertones here that I think really encompasses to a lot of people around the world. There's someone in this weird family that you could probably connect to.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, really quick, is that there wasn't, in the family dynamic, there wasn't really an evil person, or sure, the daughter messed up and apologized, but like the father was never painted as, oh, he's just stopping her from living her dreams, and this is a movie about going for what you want, and it can get really like heavy-handed, but it wasn't, and it's because we showed where the father was coming from, where he didn't succeed in his kind of artistic kind of goal, and he was just really scared that his daughter wouldn't succeed as well. He just didn't want her to feel the hurt that he felt, which makes him much more of a nuanced character. And so I liked how there wasn't an evil person in the family. There was just very nuanced people that messed up from time to time.
Oh, absolutely. They were very, very human characters. I'd like to pass the torch back to you, Mark. What were some of your takeaways from this movie, especially since you too also saw it for a second time?
I did. I kind of had to. Just visually, this film is such a treat, and kind of piggybacking off the a animated movie made by and really for animators. There's a lot of 2D sensibility in this and how the characters move. There's a very fun visual kind of almost you described it as a Telltale Games almost sort of cell shady quality to it, Matt. But one thing for me that really stuck out were the eyes in particular, in that they're just dots. They're just old fashioned dots, and how so much more expressive that actually can be than sort of the more, I mean, still stylized, but the attempts that most CG animated movies make, where that you can clearly see, there's the pupil, the iris, all the other bits in there that I don't know because I'm not an optometrist. But just with the dot itself, there's a moment where the father is hurt, and it's very comedic. So it's the one cheek that is raised up a bit, then the bottom eye lip is raised up, and then the dot shrinks in that eye. But then the other eye, it's bulging a bit, and there's the dot. But then there's a circle around the dot, and it's just so much fun to see how much you can play visually with that. Like, it's just amazing. Even the poster there's a very pop neon kind of color to it, with some of the stuff that looks like it's kind of drawn on it after the fact. But then the actual car and the characters almost have like a Drew Struzan kind of brushstroke quality to them. Like, so much of this movie was thought out from a creative and animated standpoint, and the more and more I'm reading about the production history, which we can talk about a little bit later, it kind of makes more sense, and I almost wonder how it managed to work. Because like Mirella said, there have been animator movies made by and for animators, but usually the script falls short. But it didn't here. It's amazing. And even the cast is such a, almost, I want to say, grab bag of people, but it all works. It all makes sense. It's fascinating. I wish it, under normal circumstances, could have had just a regular full-blown movie theatrical release. And if it's still, I mean, we're almost halfway through the year now, I guess, but if there's any contender for best animated picture, I think for the 2021, I'd say this is it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I was thinking about that while watching it too. I was like, this has to get nominated. It's so good.
It really is. And I mean, we'll see how Luca performs, and I'm pretty sure Pixar will deliver. But this movie definitely set a really, really high bar for me, especially with films are subjective. Like whether you take something seriously or you could understand the undertones of what the filmmakers are going for. This might be a bit of a kind of a sappy response coming from me, but usually I like movies to get some form of emotional response from me. Not just laughter or like joy or anything like that. If there's certain themes that happen that I can relate to and makes me think about it at the end, I'm not asking for like a dreary drama or something shocking per se, but just this movie almost consistently left me in tears as much as Pixar's Coco did. Almost. And that's really hard to achieve. So I really feel like this movie has to be nominated in some way.
I mean, for sure, this is definitely for me the most visually kind of interesting and emotional movie since Pixar's Coco. And I do like that, well, that there's another studio besides Pixar now that like Sony's really seems to be stepping it up with Spider-Verse and so many other of their productions now that really are kind of, I almost want to say really kind of taking the art form of animation seriously and having fun with it. I do like that Pixar now, especially with Luca, is trying to be more different with their design approaches. I've noticed ever since a lot of old guard of Pixar has been leaving that kind of seems to be trickling out more and more, just these different movies with different styles. Not that we're talking about Pixar, but yeah, it's amazing. And oh god, this is I almost, I don't want to be that person, but I almost wonder if it being on Netflix right off the bat gets it to everybody, and I'm happy for it because more people need to see it. But I almost wonder if it not really having that kind of full-blown theatrical release in some way will hurt it from getting to the amount of people that it should, because this is something special.
I cannot confirm whether or not this movie will be released in theaters, because I do know, at least with the Academy, it requires a movie to be out in theaters or in certain locations for a set amount of time. You might know this more, Mirella. Do you know if this movie would still qualify for a BAFTA or an animation-centric award of some sort?
I think it should, because I think for like the Oscars, they think I don't know about BAFTA or anything animation related, to be honest, but I heard that they changed the requirements for the Oscars that you don't need to have that theatrical release because in 2020, so many movies just straight up couldn't have that. So I imagine that the rules have changed just simply in the past few months. So I can't tell you outright, or like, yes, it might qualify for BAFTA, but I imagine that the rules have changed a bit, which might be for the better. I mean, I don't know. So I think sometimes a lot of these kind of the required hit marks for getting nominated somewhere are so steep, and require all like festival circulation and screen time and blah 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 blah. Whereas now it might be a little bit easier to get a lot of that stuff because of streaming platforms. I don't know.
I see no reason why it wouldn't qualify for like an Annie award or anything like that. But I mean, Soul did just win Best Picture and it was straight to Disney Plus. So I'm pretty sure that at least, from an award standpoint, I would have to imagine then that Mitchell's versus the Machine would be acceptable for a nomination next year.
And also, Wolfwalkers, as far as I could tell, only premiered on Apple TV. That got nominated.
That's true. I don't know if that in Ireland actually had a release or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, the rules have got to be changed a little bit just this past year alone, or else like how many movies would actually qualify? I mean,
I think the running joke for that, Mirella, is because if you kept to the Oscar rules, Sonic the Hedgehog would be in every category then. Because I was like one of the only few movies that were in theater before the pandemic happened.
I mean, it wasn't a bad movie.
No,
I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah, no, I'm just imagining what I'm imagining right now is the Oscars with like everybody virtually dressed up and then Sonic popping up for every category. And it's just a funny visual.
Like best movie of the year. You have the
Best production design, best script, best FX, best.
Dude,
like...
no, for makeup design, it'd be hilarious if they say Jim Carrey's mustache.
Best post-credit scene of 2020, really.
Yeah.
Oh, but if Sonic wins everything, it would thankfully be the most mercifully short and literally fastest not going overtime Oscar ceremony we'd ever have. It would be a blessing.
That would be too much of a blessing. But let's get back on track here. I want to hand the attention to you, Mark. What were some production notes that you've noticed about this movie that you think might be fun to bring up in this conversation?
Well, yeah, just for things that have been made public, of course. Phil Lord and Chris Miller produced are attached to it. I was shocked that really wasn't more of a selling. I don't remember there being much of a marketing for this. In fact, I originally remember hearing about it being called Connected, but apparently it was originally always meant to be called The Mitchells versus the Machines. The name just got changed back to the original one when Netflix bought the rights. And I'm honestly kind of glad for that because I kind of dislike these one-word titles for animated movies lately that, sometimes are good and sometimes are just honestly kind of stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just kind of I feel like Connected, like that Connected sounds like a great way to have it presented at the Oscars. Oh yes, Connected. But like no one's gonna like remember that name. You say Mitchells versus Machines, everyone's gonna know what it is, no question. Love
And
it.
plus, in the title itself, kind of tells you a little bit about what the movie's about instead of like Connected. What could that be?
No, yeah, it's something I hope we kind of break away from with mainstream Hollywood animated films. But yes, Phil Lord and Chris Miller. This actually was sort of being kicked around as early as Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, as a matter of fact, by the looks of it. Mike Rianda and Jeff Rowe, former writers of Disney Channel series Gravity Falls, served as screenwriters. And also, Dana Terrace from The Owl House and Matt Braley from Amphibia worked as storyboard artists, though they don't seem to be credited in the final version. And it's just, it's really amazing. In some respects, there's a bit of a kind of who's who in the animation scene attached to this. And it's just then even crazier because the voice cast for this seems like almost such a grab bag, throw a dart at the board mess that you think there's no way this could work. There's no consistency. I can't see how these people all play off each other, but it works. There's Abby Jacobson as formerly, well, not formally, but you know her as Bean from Disenchantment, Matt. There's Danny McBride, Maya Rudolph. Then there's Blake Griffin, the basketball player, for some reason. There's Conan O'Brien. There's Doug the Pug. There's Alex Hirsch, the guy who made Gravity Falls and is Bill Cipher and Hootie. And Gray Griffin, a voice talent I personally love. And it's just, it's just amazing. There's John Legend. And like with some of these like celebrities I've mentioned at the very least, you kind of think, okay, some of them like Conan O'Brien, they're going to make a whole thing where it's, Conan O'Brien is, and he's going to come in, do his shtick, and he's going to go. But he's just a robot. And it's never really done as a cheap marketing ploy or anything. It's just so well thought out. It's amazing that this film is just so well thought out from start to finish, and its production history. I encourage you to go look it up yourselves if you have a chance. It's fascinating, folks. This is something great, and I kind of hope Sony can continue to do these fun, weird, strange new things. I fully support it.
And to kind of bounce off of what you were saying about the voice cast, like I was actually really impressed with how well these actors play these characters without utilizing their voices for what they're known for. Like Danny McBride, I know him a lot as someone who's really loud and obscene, but he was very human in this movie. And I think really the only voice that I instantly recognized was Abby, but again, because I saw Disenchantment with her as Princess Bean. But yeah, I remember hearing Conan O'Brien was in this movie, but I didn't catch his voice the first time around. And even second time, I was like, oh, wait, no, he's over there, but he's not doing his thing at all. So I think they did a really good job at making these characters stand alone, even with recognizable voices to some to be unique on their own. I don't want to gush over this movie too much because there were a couple things that did bother me about this movie. And I don't know if you guys had any like nitpicks or negatives for this movie, but I only really have two that I could think of. And that would be Mike Rianda playing Aaron Mitchell, the little brother. I did like his voice as like almost like a voice you would hear in an adult cartoon or a cartoon show that's made primarily for adults playing little kids. Like you kind of get used to that. I kind of wish he was voiced by like an actual kid, but at the same time, the way they wrote his character, I can forgive that. I got over that fairly quickly. Before I get into my other negative, do any of you guys kind of feel the same way, or that's not much of an issue for you?
I remember when he first spoke up, I was a little surprised at how deep his voice was. But it, like you said, as soon as I got a sense for his personality. It clicked right in. Yeah, I was just gonna remark up to what Mark was saying was I don't have an ear for voice actors, to be honest. So to me, it sounded like really well blended. The only person that kind of sounded familiar to me was Pal, and I was kind of shocked to just suddenly open up the panel for the cast for the show as we were talking, and I see that it's Olivia Colman. I'm like, this cast is crazy. But yeah, it didn't stick out to me too much, the boy, because I got used to it pretty quickly. I don't know, Mark, what did you think about that?
Probably wouldn't have been my first choice, but I think it grew on me after a while. You're kind of get used to it after a while. It used to be like for kids, you either had a child actor, but then historically there would be problems where, okay, well, once upon a time, animated films weren't cranked out every year. Okay, so there was the problem of, okay, we need to have them come back in and record some new lines. Well, the kid hit puberty and his voice changed. See Disney's Sword in the Stone for that problem. And then, especially with the Saturday morning cartoon coming on the rise, it became a lot more easier. I don't want to say it started there, but it became a lot more common to have women voicing young boys in particular. Then now we kind of fallen back to having kids voice kids a little bit with, especially now child actors and things like that kind of being more of a thing, and the turnaround for animated films just being snapped just like that, a bit crazy and ridiculous to some extent. But yeah, I think you just kind of get used to it now. I mean, we just got through, if you watch DuckTales, like all those ducklings sound like they're in their 40s because they're in their 40s. And you just got to be like, okay, this is a 10-year-old, you know?
No, for sure. To quickly conclude on my negatives, which again are mostly nitpicks, and it is something I did get over, but Mirella and I, we had this conversation along with a few other friends after we saw the movie the first time. One of the things that kind of drives me nuts, it's a common, I don't know if I want to say a plot device, but definitely a beat that I notice a lot of family animated movies tend to use. I don't know the correct terminology for this, but it's a moment where a character is working with somebody or they're getting along with someone, but then right around the third act or at the beginning of the third act, suddenly there was a revelation that this other person is actually just using the other character and that they were never genuine to begin with, or they betrayed them in some way. But the other character's like, wait, no, that's not what I meant. I mean, like at first it was like that, but then I grew to not think that way. But then it creates like this artificial tension where the team breaks up and then they got to get over their own faults to come back together for the finale. Maybe either one of you can correct exactly what that is for me, but I see that a lot in anime movies. So when that happened in this one, I did kind of roll my eyes a little bit because I was like, oh, great, here we go again. But then as the movie unraveled itself and Kate realized what she said was wrong and what her father, Rick, was trying to do, it actually felt way more natural than I expected. So that initial nitpick quickly washed away a few minutes after it happened.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. It does tend to be overused. I think what I appreciated about that moment, though, it allowed our main character. There was a point a little bit after the father and the mother and the whole family hears what she said to her younger brother, and the mom and dad get taken away, and the two kids are together hiding from the robots, and the boy starts crying, and he says something along the lines of, "Why did you say all those things?" And I thought that was a really powerful moment because she got critiqued by someone that she genuinely really loves and has absolutely no ill will for. And she technically has that for her other family members, obviously, but she tends to be a lot more, a teenager towards her parents, whereas her little brother is more like a friend. And so that moment where he told her, like, why did you do that? Why would you say that? It really hit me.
Well, Mark, I think we've given our points already. But Mirella, I think you told me a little bit after we watched the movie, there was something about the Furbies that just didn't work for you, that they just drove you nuts and you really, really hated them and wished you would see them all suffer. Is that true, Mirella?
No, are you kidding me, Matt?
What?
I love the Furbies. I am here for the Furbies. If the Furbies weren't in there, it just wouldn't be a complete film. And they're quite literally the best part of the movie. I am here to serve our overlords, and I will fill my house with the Furbies. And at night, I will just say a good night to all of them and let them do their thing. No, I love the Furbies. I love how they included them in there. I don't know how the audiences will take the Furbies. I don't know if they got the joke. I don't know if they were creeped out by the Furbies. I don't know how people in general feel about Furbies, but I love Furbies.
Kill them all, Mirella.
Yes.
Our dark harvest will begin, Keiko.
Oh,
Yes.
no.
I'm here to take you all away to the Furby lands.
Yeah, no. Well,
No gods, no kings, only Furby.
Only Furbies.
Oh man, cheese and rice, dude. But yeah, no, it was funny when the Furbies came up. It was a little unexpected, but beautiful timing, because I remember I was watching a YouTube video not too long ago talking about weird robot toys back in like the early 2000s and stuff, and they were talking about Furbies, and these guys came up. I did not expect that at all, and I also love the fact that it's pretty much the actual Furby model. It wasn't stylized to fit the art style of all the humans and stuff, which, by the way, one gag that I loved is when Rick was trying to like find a good photo of the family, points to one, and Linda's like, that's the family that came with the frame, and it's just like a hyper-realistic photo of a family.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great joke. My mother like laughed her head off at that.
Yeah, but anyway, I digress. The way they rendered out the Furbies in this, and also they gave it an atomic style breath, that was just hilarious to me.
Oh, when they all started singing. Oh, and then we just got like the translated notes of "We will venge the children." I was there. I was there for this moment.
We all know where Mirella stands in the upcoming robot uprising.
Yes, we do.
And clearly she has chosen the winning side.
I have.
That is until the Wi-Fi goes out, so we'll see.
The Furbies do not rely on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, just good old-fashioned AA batteries, Matt.
Like,
They'll
sure.
just keep going and going and going.
Oh man. But unfortunately, this review can't keep going and going because we've reached the time limit, I'm afraid, guys. But hey, I want to thank you, Mark, and I want to thank you, especially Mirella, for joining us on this three-person discussion on this really, really well-made animated movie. I know we don't really do ratings much these days, but this is definitely a movie I ended up loving, of how fun and witty and how sharp the humor is, as well as like how different the animation style is in terms of 3D animated movies. I really loved it. I highly recommend it. How would you sum up your overall feelings of these movies? Let's start with you, Mark.
It was great. I think I've gushed about it quite ad nauseum. I'm not sure what anyone else would really want me to say. It certainly made me more interested and excited for Wish Dragon. That's coming out remarkably soon, as a matter of fact. And then Vivo, I think that just had a trailer drop with Lin-Manuel Miranda as a monkey. And yeah, I'm kind of just, I'm pumped. Like 2021, good chance Sony just comes out swinging with some of these animated movies.
What about you, Mirella? What would you say is your overall reception for this movie?
A 10 out of 10. Loved it. And I love how Sony just keeps having fun with their movies, and they try not to make each one the same. And I love that their direction that they're going in, and I will happily see more films coming out from them.
Yeah, and I don't really want to delve into the whole fan camp thing between studios, but I really, really am looking forward to see what else Sony Pictures Animation can produce in terms of its animated features. I heard, along with its slate of movies that they're going to release, that they also want to try to play around with making movies targeted for a PG-13. And we've seen anime movies that generally stay in PG, and if they do go adult, they usually go for the hard R. But to go for PG-13, I think that's going to be very interesting of how they're going to tackle something like that. So I really hope Sony continues to pump out quality movies like this. just so it can stimulate other major Hollywood animated studios to try to up their game, because I'm not going to get into this rant here, but I really feel like a lot of the usual suspects that we get, they make good movies, yes, but it's been a while since they really wowed me with anything. So again, I hope Sony Pictures Animation really stirs up the competition and we get more things, not just from them, but maybe from other studios that we're familiar with. Who knows? I say that'll do it for our spoiler talk review of The Mitchells vs. the Machines. You heard our opinion, but now we want to hear yours. Let us know in the comment section below, what did you think of this Sony Pictures animated movie? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Share your thoughts, join the conversation. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, ring that bell to be notified when new videos drop, and if you want to support me directly, consider going to my Patreon, do a one-time donation, and if you want to watch me do some animation streams on Twitch, be sure to check me out there. Links are in the description below. This is Matt Sella.
This is Mark.
And this is Mirella.
Thanking you all for tuning in.